Hey everybody, I'm Tanner Knight, and today we are unboxing what appears to be a square box. This is a 15-inch by 15-inch box, so you might have guessed what's in here, or if you watched my previous video, then you definitely know what's in here. This is in fact a snare drum. So we're going to be reviewing another snare drum. Let's go ahead and get this out of here. Okay, so what do we have here? This is the Tama Swingstar Classic 14-inch snare in the 6.5-inch depth. So this is the very first 6.5-inch depth snare that I've ever owned, so this will be kind of a new experience for me, but right off the bat, it's pretty light. This thing does not weigh very much, and it's pretty light. So that's kind of cool. Let's take a look at the wood on this drum. This is called Black Trans, this color, and it's black, but it is see-through, so it's not like a piano black. But it's very dark, and you can see the maple grain on here. Let's just go around the drum and take a look at the lugs and the hoops. And here you can see our Tama Swingstar Classic badge. This is a maple snare with a serial number of 042151, looks like. So again, Tama Swingstar Classic maple shell. They make this in a bunch of different woods and metals, but this is the maple version. Here you can see we got a pretty nice throw off. It just opens like this. Has a dial inside to tighten or loosen the snare as usual. Really nice equipment, very Tama-esque. We have an Aquarian triple threat head on this particular drum here. Not one I'm familiar with, but Aquarian makes really nice heads. So I would assume that that's a pretty nice head on there. Then if we flip this thing over and take a look on the inside, you can see our maple grain a lot better. Yes, this is maple. And there's a little badge here that's, I believe, the serial number, and it just says G17A1919. Kind of hard to see through this opaque snare head. And then if you spin it a little bit more, you do see that we have a Made in China and 17G on the inside of this badge here. So a little bit of information and branding and etc. from Tama on the inside of the drum. Otherwise, our screws look great, our bearing edge looks great, and this thing looks ready to rock. All right, here we go. We've got this Tama snare installed, and immediately I do notice that extra inch of depth sitting up a lot higher, but it sounds like this. Just to refresh your memory, we are capturing the sound with our D5, our AKG D5 dynamic microphone. And yeah, that's what we got going on. Let's hear this thing in the full context of the set. It sounds like this. So I think this thing is cranked on a little too tight, so I'm just going to back off a little tension on this snare head, on this batter head, and see if that makes any difference. Nope, that makes it sound worse. A lot of junk in the sound. I think that's probably due to the maple. Let me just put a little moon gel over here, see if that takes a little of the edge off. No. doesn't seem to help at all, so we will leave the moon gel off. Also tighten up the snare head a little bit. I don't know, it sounds pretty good, I guess. I think the closest thing that I have to compare it against is my Tama Swingstar Maple snare, which is a 5.5-inch depth, but it does not sound like that snare at all. And just to refresh your memory, here's what that snare sounds like. So one thing we did not do in the video yesterday is release the snare, just hear what this sounds like without the snare engaged. They're still interacting with the snare side. I think I have to tighten up the snare. Let's do that. Alright, so I just tightened up the snares, which was very simple. Just 2 bolts that are loosened here by a drum key, and you loosen up the snare, the throw off, and then pull it all the way through. So that makes a huge difference in the sound. It sounds a little louder, it sounds a little clearer, and just better overall. So, here's the context of the full kit. So it sounds a lot better with the snare tightened up. I'm not entirely certain that this is the correct tuning or the best tuning for this drum. I'd like to get some of the noise out of the shell somehow. I'm not quite sure how to do that, but if you have any suggestions, just listen to this. It's just in the decay. There's a little bit of noise that I'm not crazy about. Almost like a brass type of ring, but it's definitely a maple snare. It's not bad. I think it's a pretty good sounding snare overall. Not my favorite as compared to the Pearl Sensitone or the DW Designer series, but this is a nice little addition. It's kind of more modern, I would call it. So it has a more modern biting sound, and that might work better for your modern Superstar kit than my vintage Birch Superstar kit. So keep that in mind. I don't know if these 2 entities, the maple and the birch, mesh that well. So we'll see. But we'll compare it. Let's go ahead and compare it against the Pearl and the DW as well. and give you a little head-to-head and see which snare sounds best in this context. All right, so what are my final thoughts on this Tama Superstar Classic all maple 6.5-inch snare? Well, I think that it's not as good as I had hoped, or at least the sound does not mesh with my drum set as well as I would have liked. And I'm not entirely sure what to attribute it to, honestly, but I think that the maple might be a different source than the old maple that they had in the Japanese snares. Maybe the lugs are slightly different. I do think that having a 6.5-inch depth makes these lug lengths really long, and that tends to potentially add in another source of just vibration and sound that shouldn't be there. And I don't know if that's escapable or not, but that's how Tama chose to do it. I do think that having the snare a little loose kind of threw me off a little bit at first, but once I got that tightened up, it works a lot better and sounds much better as well. Will I go with this as my primary snare for now? Probably not. I think I'll stick with the Pearl Sensitone for now. That seems to be a really good sounding snare that I'm just getting used to. So I'm gonna go with the brass guy for now, and who knows, maybe I'll sell this or give it another shot down the road. I'm not entirely sure. I did not fall in love with it immediately, which to me is usually a sense that it just doesn't mesh well with the instrument that I've chosen, which is the Tama Superstar Birch drum set. There are a few dings and scratches on this guy if you get it in the light, so it's not 100% perfect, but it's in very nice condition, and it's a very nice drum. I wouldn't be surprised if this is from the 2019, 2018, maybe 2020 era. I'm not as well versed in that era of Tama as I am in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, but you know, it's all a learning process. So if you have any experience with this particular snare drum or one like it, I'd love to hear your thoughts and if it meshes well with like a more maple kit to match maple to maple, or maybe an oak or something else, bobinga, I don't know, you tell me. But Tama Swingstar Classic shell in trans black, made in China, nice and light, nice snare, good bearing edge. I always like to try different heads on snares as well. This is an Aquarian triple threat, one I've never experienced, but it feels pretty thick, pretty burly. Maybe I'll try a hydraulic head on this guy and see if it makes a huge difference. But overall, it's a really nice snare, nice feeling, nice looking, and great hardware from Tama always. But at the end of the day, the sound is a little off for me personally. So there you have it. Let me know what you think. So like and subscribe if you like this type of content. As always, like and subscribe if you like this type of content. Let me know if you have any questions, and if not, I'll see you on the next one.